This is your spoiler warning for Season 5, Episode 1 of Black Mirror, Striking Vipers. If you have not seen this episode of Black Mirror, you may click off now, and that is your full warning. So Black Mirror is back, and I'm so happy to be saying that because I missed this show, and I'm just glad it's back, even though it's so short, just 3 episodes. I'm very thankful that we even get these 3 episodes. So starting off, we start off quite well with Striking Vipers, and this episode has Anthony Mackie, who I believe plays Danny. And I'm not really going to get into the details of explaining the plot because if you're watching this, I gave you a spoiler warning, so I'm assuming that you've already seen the episode. So, Striking Vipers, in terms of Black Mirror, what I have come to know about Black Mirror, this one handled it a little bit differently than I would have expected. Basically, when we got to the point where he is in the simulated video game that emulates all physical sensations, when he gets to the point where he is having sex with his old friend, that was the point when I was like thinking about how this story could resolve, and I just couldn't imagine a way for it to resolve well, to put it frankly. So I had a really hard time imagining how they would handle it, but Charlie Brooker and everyone who made this episode did a really good job of balancing everything they needed to balance and just making this episode work, which legitimately surprised me because I was having a hard time figuring out how this story would go in any kind of a way that would add up to something, but it really did. And all of the cast is great, obviously, and everything in this episode is great, basically. But what this episode deals with, it handles very well. The dissatisfaction between these two men and their lives, and basically it gets to that point where they start making out, and then they both leave the game. But then they come back and then they keep doing it, and although it is not technically real, he is effectively, cheating on his wife. I think I can feel safe in saying that. And this stuff is all dealt with really well, this dissatisfaction, and then eventually he comes to the point where he's like, this is genuinely not okay, so we're done doing this. And this is somewhere towards the 50-minute mark of the episode or something. So then they stop because he chooses to. They both enjoy it. That's very clear. They both enjoy what they're doing, especially the other person whose name I can't remember. I apologize. His friend. And yeah, but they stop because he just comes to the point where he's like, no, this really is wrong. So I'm going to stop cheating on my wife, and I'm not going to tell her. I'm just going to whatever. So but then they do have that conversation, although that is not something we see. And then we cut 7 months in the future, and we get to this point where she knows what's going on. Everybody's aware of the situation, and basically what I gathered is that every so often, be it a few months or a year, who's to say, then they allow each other the opportunity to branch out for something that they're not achieving within their marriage, which is a very interesting idea. And ending the episode in that kind of a way was almost a happy ending, which is not something I'm accustomed to with Black Mirror. This one felt a little bit different than I would expect, but it was really good, and everyone's great in it. Anthony Mackie does a really good job of playing a bad liar. That was good, a good moment. And yeah, this episode just dealt with things that I wasn't really expecting it to. We did go back into video games, which Black Mirror has tackled before in Playtest. I thought this episode was much better than Playtest. But maybe I'll talk about that one later. So yeah, this episode just dealt with things that I wouldn't really expect a Black Mirror episode to, but it sure did, and it sure did it well. So yeah, it just did a good job of ending it in a way that not was satisfying, but I just felt a quality ending, because I really did have a hard time picturing how the story could resolve in that kind of a way, but I thought they did a good job. So basically what I'm saying is they did a good job handling all these elements, and I thought this episode was done really well, and yeah, I'm very satisfied with this one. overall, this episode is really solid. Everybody's acting at the top of their game, and this new story devised by Charlie Brooker is a really great one. Basically, we have these 3 dissatisfied people and how they come to a point where they become satisfied, and that's all handled really well amidst all these elements that could have easily gone in a direction that was horrible, and if I had written it, it certainly would have, but it did not, and it was handled really well, and it made for a really good episode. And I am going to give Striking Vipers a rating of 8.5 out of 10. So that's going to do it for today, folks. Thank you very much for joining me. If you join me soon, I will be reviewing Smithereens as soon as possible, the 2nd episode of this season of Black Mirror, followed by the last episode of this season. And also I have lots of Doctor Who reviews and Game of Thrones reviews. I even have a review of the new season of Veep, of Good Omens, all that stuff. If any of that is of interest to you, then feel free to check it out. But if not, that's perfectly fine. I appreciate that you joined me today. So, thank you for watching. Take care, and have a lovely week.